What if the one person who has always been the being heart of Heartland, the woman who has held her family together through every storm, healed countless horses, and inspired millions, was about to be taken from us forever? Amy Fleming, the soul of the show we've all grown up with, might now be facing her darkest, most devastating moment yet. In a shocking twist at the end of season 19, we're confronted with an unimaginable possibility: the potential death of Amy herself. For years, we've watched Amy navigate love, loss, and personal growth. We've laughed with her, cried with her, and believed without a doubt that she was unbreakable. But now, as the story unfolds in ways we never saw coming, the very foundation of Heartland is in jeopardy. Could this truly be the end of Amy's incredible journey? Or is there hope yet for this beloved character? The emotional stakes have never been higher. Brace yourself for the heart-wrenching uncertainty ahead. What happens when the one character we've trusted to lead us through the ups and downs of Heartland is suddenly gone? The future of the ranch, the family, and the very essence of the show hangs by a thread. Season 19 doesn't just test Amy, it shakes the foundation of everything we thought we knew about Heartland. Get ready, because this finale isn't just emotional. It's earth-shattering. Brace yourself for a season finale that will shake the very core of Heartland, because no one saw this coming. What began as a season filled with hope and healing is now spiraling toward a conclusion that will leave fans stunned, emotional, and questioning everything they thought they knew. At the start, everything felt right. Amy Fleming was rising to new heights in her career, successfully working with horses others had given up on. Her connection with them had never been stronger, and for the first time in a long while, it seemed like she was finally reclaiming her light after losing Ty. The ranch was thriving. The family was finding peace. Victories, big and small, were giving everyone a reason to smile again. But peace doesn't last forever, not in Heartland. As the episodes rolled on, something began to shift. Subtle at first, barely noticeable. Unexplainable happenings around the ranch. Shadows where there shouldn't be. Doors left open. Horses growing restless without cause. What felt like coincidence slowly started to feel like a warning. A slow burning tension crept in, and the comforting calm of Heartland began to feel uneasy, like something was building, something no one was ready for. Amy, always the anchor, began to show signs of strain. Her calm demeanor gave way to moments of fear and confusion. Horses she had once soothed with a whisper were now reacting violently, unpredictably. The emotional bonds that held the family together began to fray at the edges. Her instincts screamed that something was off, terribly off, but she couldn't quite grasp it. Was it just the pressures of the life she leads, or was there a hidden danger lurking beneath the surface? And then came the twist. What if everything you knew was about to unravel? No one, neither Amy, her family, nor even the fans, could have predicted the storm that was coming. As the season builds to an explosive climax, one thing becomes clear: this is more than a challenge. This is the moment that could change everything, forever. Despite the chaos around her, Amy remained focused, pouring every ounce of her strength into saving Heartland. The ranch wasn't just a place, it was her sanctuary, the last piece of Ty, and the legacy she promised to protect. From sunrise to sunset, she worked tirelessly, driven by purpose but crushed under the weight of responsibility. She was the glue that held it all together, but even the strongest hearts can break when pushed too far. And it wasn't just the ranch showing signs of strain. The people closest to Amy were shifting too. Lou, once decisive and strong, was distant, hiding a secret she refused to share. Peter, avoiding her eyes, retreating into silence. Even Jack, the steadfast foundation of the family, was changed, his wisdom replaced by long stares and a heavy silence, as if he knew a storm was coming but couldn't find the words. Still, Amy pushed forward. She had to. There was no room for weakness. But beneath the surface, something darker was stirring, a creeping unease that warned her. Everything she loved was teetering on the edge of something irreversible. Then it happened. The call. In the dead of night, her phone rang, jolting her awake. A voice she didn't recognize. Panicked, urgent, shaky. The message was chilling in its simplicity. You need to come to the ranch now. Something's wrong. It's about Ty. Her blood ran cold. Without hesitation, Amy threw on her coat, jumped in the truck, and drove like the wind, heart pounding with every turn of the road. Her thoughts spiraled. Was someone on the property? Was the family in danger? Could it really be about Ty after all this time? By the time she pulled up to Heartland, dawn was still hours away, and the ranch was blanketed in an eerie, unnatural silence. The horses stirred nervously in their stalls, their unease echoing her own. The barn door creaked in the breeze, slightly ajar, too quiet, too still. She stepped inside, her breath fogging in the cold air. And there it was. A single note, taped to the wall. No name, no signature, just a few chilling words scrawled in shaky handwriting. The past is not buried. It's just been waiting. The past can't stay buried. Her heart sank. This message was more than just a warning. It was a harbinger of what was to come. Something was about to unfold that no one, not even Amy, could have prepared for. As Amy stood frozen, eyes locked on the cryptic message pinned to the barn wall, a chill coursed through her veins, one that had nothing to do with the biting cold of the night. The words on that single note, "The past is not buried, it's just been waiting," were more than just unsettling. They were a warning. A threat. A ghost from a time she thought she'd left behind. And as those words etched themselves into her mind, one terrifying thought gripped her. Was this the start of something far more dangerous than she could ever imagine? What if the strange energy hovering over Heartland wasn't just bad luck or emotional strain, but a signal, an omen that something dark had already taken root? The bizarre behavior from her family, the restless animals, the tension hanging in the air, it all felt like pieces of a puzzle she didn't even know she was meant to solve. And now, the puzzle was starting to reveal itself. Slowly, relentlessly. Could the land that had once brought healing now be pulling her toward irreversible loss? Was this message a warning that everything she'd fought for her family, her legacy, was under threat by someone or something that had been watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike? Questions flooded Amy's mind, but answers remained just out of reach. All she knew was this: she couldn't face this storm alone. With everything on the line, she would need the strength of Lou, Jack, Georgie, and even Peter if she had any hope of uncovering the truth before it was too late. The mystery was only just beginning to unfurl. Hidden clues, whispers from the past, and shadows that refused to stay buried. But as the truth came closer, so did the danger. Some secrets could bring healing, but others might shatter everything she held dear. The calm before the storm had evaporated. The beloved show that fans had cherished for nearly 2 decades was careening toward a turning point no one could have predicted. And at the center of it all stood Amy Fleming, unknowingly stepping into a high-stakes game, one that could cost her everything. Was her fate sealed the moment she stepped into that barn? Or was this just the beginning of a darker chapter 1 that could end in the loss of the one person Heartland could never survive without? Time is running out. The truth is coming. And the storm? It's not just on the horizon anymore. It's here. Would she survive? As the days dragged on after the chilling discovery in the barn, the atmosphere at Heartland began to shift in unsettling ways. The once warm, comforting air of the ranch now felt colder, heavier, like a storm cloud that refused to move on. Amy was no longer sleeping. Her nights were haunted by dreams she couldn't remember but woke from in a cold sweat. The cryptic message echoed in her mind like a siren she couldn't silence. The past is not buried. It's just been waiting. Who would send her such a message, and why now, after all this time? What did they know? What were they trying to say? The questions circled endlessly in her mind, and no matter how hard she tried to keep life moving forward, training horses, supporting her family, clinging to routine, the weight of dread was growing too heavy to carry alone. Then came the second blow. One quiet morning, just as the fog lifted over the hills of Heartland, her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. She stared at it, her thumb hovering over the answer button, her instincts screaming at her. Finally, she picked up and immediately regretted it. The voice on the other end was unrecognizable, mechanical, cold, warped by a voice changer. "Fleming," it said. "You think you've left the past behind? But it's catching up to you. The things you've buried, they're not staying buried. And this time, there's no escaping it." Then silence. The call ended before she could even breathe a word. Amy stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear, the threat hanging in the air like smoke. It wasn't just creepy. It was personal, intimate. Whoever this was, they knew her. They knew her past. And they were watching. But who? And what exactly were they threatening? Amy's mind raced. Could it be someone from Ty's life? Someone connected to an old client? A long-forgotten enemy from a time she'd buried deep? Or was this something even darker, something that went deeper than she dared to imagine? The rest of the day passed in a fog. Every creak of the wood floor, every rustle in the stables, every whisper of wind through the trees felt amplified. She felt watched constantly. The safe haven she had called home for so many years was beginning to feel like a trap. She no longer trusted the silence, the stillness, the shadows. The horses sensed it too. Once calm and easygoing, they had grown anxious and jumpy. Amy's connection to them, usually her compass, felt frayed. It was as though whatever darkness had entered her world was touching everything around her. And she wasn't the only one who noticed. Lou watched her sister with increasing worry. Amy was retreating, shutting people out, throwing herself into work as if she could outrun whatever was haunting her. Lou tried to break through, offering comfort, asking questions, but Amy wouldn't let her in. Not yet. Yet. Not until she had answers. Even Jack, the ever-steady anchor of Heartland, could see the change. He'd watched Amy grow from a determined young girl into a resilient woman, but this time was different. This wasn't just grief or pressure, this was fear. Real fear. And it was changing her. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in streaks of violet and gold, Amy stepped away from the house, driven by an invisible pull. She needed clarity. She needed to breathe. She walked down to the river, the sacred place where Ty once held her, where decisions were made and healing often began. But tonight, peace did not come. As she stood at the riverbank, watching the water rush past, a movement caught her eye. Across the river, just beyond the tree line, a figure stood motionless, shrouded in shadow. Amy's heart slammed against her ribs. She blinked, hoping it was a trick of the light, a trick of her exhausted mind. But the figure didn't move, didn't speak, didn't turn away. It simply stood there watching. Amy's breath caught in her throat. Whoever it was, they were real. They were close, and they wanted her to know it. The figure stepped forward slowly, revealing itself, and she gasped when she recognized who it was. It was someone she thought she had lost forever. Someone she had never expected to see again. The figure was none other than Caleb, Ty's old friend, and someone who had been out of the picture for a while. Amy had always trusted Caleb, but seeing him now, standing in the dark, felt wrong. He didn't say a word at first, just watched her, his expression unreadable. Finally, he spoke, his voice low and heavy with unspoken emotion. "I never thought I'd see you here again," Amy said, trying to steady her voice. "What's going on, Caleb? Why are you here?" Caleb took a deep breath, his eyes full of regret. "Amy, there's something you don't know. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I didn't want to be the one to say it, but it's time. They're coming for you, and they're coming for the ranch." Amy's breath caught in her throat. "Who? Who's coming for us?" Before Caleb could respond, the sound of tires screeching on the dirt road interrupted their conversation. Amy turned quickly, startled by the sudden noise. When she looked back, Caleb was gone, vanished into the night as if he had never been there. Amy stood frozen, her mind racing, trying to piece together what had just happened. Had Caleb been trying to warn her? And if so, what exactly was he trying to protect her from? The message was clear, though there was a threat, and it was coming for her and for Heartland. The storm was no longer just a feeling in the air. It was real, and it was getting closer by the minute. The next morning, Amy sat down with Lo and Jack to try and make sense of everything. She told them about Caleb's warning and the unsettling phone call. Lou was immediately on edge, urging Amy to take the threat seriously. Jack, too, seemed unusually tense, as if the mention of danger had triggered something deep within him. "I don't like this," Jack said, his voice grave. "We've been through a lot together, but this feels different. We need to find out who's behind this, and fast." Amy knew Jack was right. There was no more time to waste. She couldn't ignore the warning any longer. Something big was coming, and it was threatening everything she held dear. As the family gathered together, they realized that the fate of Heartland was hanging in the balance, and they had no idea how far this danger would reach. One thing was certain, though: if they didn't act fast, they might not have time to stop what was about to unfold. But even as they prepared to face whatever was out there, Amy couldn't shake the feeling that the worst was yet to come. The storm was building, and no one could predict what would happen when it finally broke. Would Amy survive? Would Heartland survive? And who, if anyone, would be left standing when the dust settled? As Amy dug deeper into the dark, twisting mystery of her mother's past, a suffocating unease settled over Heartland. What had started with unsettling encounters, cryptic warnings, strange happenings, and an ever-present feeling of being watched was escalating with terrifying speed. The once comforting walls of Heartland now felt like a prison, and every step Amy took seemed to draw her deeper into a web of deceit. The shadows of the past weren't just lurking, they were closing in. It wasn't just a threat from her mother's forgotten history, it was something far darker, more dangerous, and disturbingly personal. Amy could no longer ignore the signs. The strange occurrences weren't isolated incidents, they were a warning. The storm that had been quietly building was now unmistakable. The deeper Amy dug, the clearer it became. Her mother's involvement with Oliver Rhodes wasn't a brief, isolated chapter. It was the dark thread that had been pulling at the very fabric of their lives. Marion's choices, made years ago, had unknowingly set the stage for Rhodes to slip through the cracks, a ghost in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The past that Amy had tried to bury was alive again, and it was coming for her. Rhodes wasn't just resurfacing, he was coming back with a vengeance. And this time, he wasn't looking for old grudges or petty revenge. No, this time, he was intent on finishing what had been set in motion long ago. His return was no accident, it was calculated. And Amy, with each new piece of the puzzle, realized one chilling truth. If Rhodes had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike, that moment had arrived. But what was his true goal? Was it Heartland he sought to claim, or was Amy the real target of his twisted game? As Amy uncovered more, she stumbled onto something far darker, a hidden connection between Rhodes and a series of land disputes years ago. Buried in the depths of Heartland's files, the records told a story of corruption, illegal deals, and veiled threats. The battles over land weren't just about property, they were about power. And at the center of it all was Rhodes, his shadowy dealings casting a long and ominous influence over everything Amy had ever known. Heartland was more than a ranch. It was a key piece in a much larger, much darker puzzle. The stakes had never been higher, and now, no matter how hard she tried, Amy couldn't pretend she was just a bystander anymore. Rhodes would stop at nothing to reclaim what he believed was his. But the worst was yet to come. When Albert Rhodes, the reclusive brother of Oliver, appeared at Heartland's gates, everything shifted. Albert had never cared about the ranch, but now, standing in the cold light of day, his presence was unnerving. His eyes were filled with something far darker than concern, urgency, fear, and a deep knowing. His cryptic warning sent a cold shiver down Amy's spine. He knew far too much. "Amy," Albert said, his voice low, thick with fear, "your mother thought she could escape. But the past, it always catches up. Rhodes isn't after the land. He's after everything your mother built. And it's not just the land he wants. It's the legacy. It's you." Amy's heart skipped a beat. The weight of his words crashed down on her. She had spent so long trying to protect her family, trying to bury the past, but now it felt like everything was crumbling. For years, Rhodes had been pulling the strings from the shadows, setting the stage for this moment. And now Amy was at the center of his plan. As the tension at Heartland reached a breaking point, Amy knew one thing for sure: she couldn't face this storm alone. Rhodes wasn't just playing games anymore, he was orchestrating a dangerous, twisted plot that threatened to tear everything she loved apart. And the worst part? She didn't know how to stop it. The danger was real. Rhodes was coming, and this time, he wasn't going to stop until it was all gone. But in the midst of the chaos, she knew she had to act. She had to confront the one person who could still help her make sense of it all. The one person who had always stood by her side, who understood the weight of everything she was carrying. Her sister, Lou. That evening, after another harrowing day spent chasing the ghosts of Oliver Rhodes's past and trying to piece together his sinister plans, Amy sat Lou down in the living room. The fire crackled in the hearth, the warmth from the flames doing little to ease the cold weight that hung in the air. Amy's voice trembled as she spoke, the words coming out in a rush, like the floodgates had been opened. She had to tell Lou everything. But what if it was already too late? "I'm scared, Lou," Amy admitted, her voice shaking despite her best efforts to sound composed. "I don't know who I can trust anymore. I don't know what's real." Lou gave her a sympathetic look, her brow furrowing as she took Amy's hands in her own. "You don't have to go through this alone," Lou said gently. "We'll figure this out together. You know I've got your back no matter what." But Amy wasn't so sure anymore. The more she uncovered about RHSE's connection to Heartland, the more she realized that the fight ahead wasn't just about protecting the ranch, it was about saving her own life. RHS had made it clear that Amy was at the center of this vendetta, and she couldn't shake the feeling that the storm that had been building was about to hit its peak. Despite Lau's reassurances, Amy's mind was plagued by doubt. What if the people she trusted most were part of the reason this danger was so close? What if her own family was unknowingly wrapped up in the dark history that had led to RHS's return? "I found something," Amy said quietly, pulling a weathered folder from beneath the table. It was filled with old letters, legal documents, and photographs, evidence she had gathered over the last few days. She spread the documents across the table, and Lou's eyes scanned them with increasing alarm. "It's all here," Amy continued. "Every legal battle, every dirty deal. RHS wasn't just after the land, he was after control. He wanted everything, and he wasn't afraid to do whatever it took to get it. Lou's face turned pale as she flipped through the papers. Amy, these aren't just old business disputes. These are threats. These people weren't just involved in property battles, they were trying to bury each other. This could ruin everything. Amy nodded, her heart heavy with the truth. The darkness that had been lurking in Heartland's past had not only resurfaced, it had taken root. And Amy now had to confront it head on. I can't protect Heartland alone, Lo. I can't even protect myself. If we don't do something, if we don't take action now, everything we've worked for could be lost. Lou met Amy's gaze, a mixture of concern and resolve in her eyes. Then we do this together. We'll fight. We'll take back control. Amy wanted to believe her. But deep down, she knew that things were no longer simple. RHS wasn't just fighting for land, he was fighting for something much more dangerous, the power to break them. As the pieces of the puzzle clicked into place, the stakes were growing higher. And the danger wasn't just lurking in the shadows anymore, it was at their doorstep. The next morning, Amy and Lou decided to take matters into their own hands. They contacted every ally they could think of: Caleb, Jack, even some of the older ranch hands who had worked with the Fleming family for decades. They knew the fight ahead would be difficult, but they were determined to face it head on. However, what they didn't expect was the chilling message that arrived shortly after making their decision. A package, unmarked and with no return address, was left at the doorstep of Heartland Ranch. It contained only one item, a photograph of Amy, standing alone in front of the barn, a look of determination etched on her face. What made the photo so unsettling was the addition of a message written on the back in bold, black letters. This is only the beginning. Amy's stomach dropped as she stared at the photo. Whoever had sent it clearly knew she was taking action, and they weren't backing down. In fact, it seemed like they were daring her to make a move. We can't wait any longer, Amy said, her voice tight with a mixture of fear and resolve. It's time to confront this head on. No more running. No more hiding. Lou nodded, but her eyes were filled with worry. What if this isn't just about roads? What if something even darker is pulling the strings? Amy stood there, lost in the tangled web of truth and lies. The deeper she dug, the more impossible it became to separate the past from the present. Every revelation, every twist, only added to the uncertainty, and one thing had become painfully clear: someone was willing to go to any lengths to destroy Heartland, and Amy was right in the center of it all. But what's really at stake? Is this just a battle for Heartland, or is it something far more dangerous lurking beneath the surface? I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think is coming next for Amy and the Heartland family? Drop your theories in the comments below. And if you're not subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button for more shocking updates and all the latest on Heartland. You won't want to miss what's coming next.